I found a trail that shouldn't exist, and now I can't stop walking it, even though I left the mountain 3 weeks ago. Let me start from the beginning, because I need someone to understand what happened up there. My name is Marcus Webb, and I've been hiking the Cascades for 7 years. I know these mountains. I know their moods, their dangers, their secrets. Or at least, I thought I did. It was late October when I decided to tackle the northern ridge of Mount Hollow. I've been planning this trip for months, waiting for the perfect weather window. The forecast showed 3 days of clear skies, crisp temperatures, ideal conditions. I packed light but smart. Water purification tablets, emergency beacon, first aid kit, enough trail mix and jerky to last 5 days if I needed to stretch it. I've done this 100 times before. I started this scent at dawn. The air was cold enough to see my breath, but the sunlight cutting through the pine trees felt like a promise. The main trail was familiar, a well-worn path that thousands of hikers take every year. But I wasn't interested in the main trail. I'd heard rumors from some of the locals in town about an old logging road that cut through the eastern face, supposedly shaving hours off the standard route. The Forest Service didn't maintain it anymore, and it wasn't on any of the official maps, but a guy at the outdoor supply store had sketched it roughly on the margin of my topographical map. I found the split about 2 hours in. The main trail continued upward, marked with bright orange blazes on the trees, but to the right, almost hidden behind a fallen Douglas fir, I saw it, a gap in the undergrowth. A faint depression in the forest floor where something had passed through many times before. No markers, no signs, just an opening that felt like an invitation. I should have stayed on the main trail. I know that now. But in that moment, standing there with the morning sun on my face and my legs feeling strong, I felt that familiar pull, the desire to see something others haven't seen. To find the shortcut, the secret, the path less traveled. I stepped off the main trail and pushed through the gap in the trees. The forest changed almost immediately, not in any way I could point to exactly, but in the quality of light, the density of the air. The main trail had been loud with birdsong and the rustle of small animals in the underbrush. Here, everything felt muted. The trees stood closer together, their branches creating a canopy that filtered the sunlight into something dimmer, greener. My footsteps on the soft earth made almost no sound, but the path was clear enough. I could see where feet had walked before, where the vegetation had been pressed down over time. The trail wound between massive tree trunks, following the natural contours of the slope. It felt old, not abandoned, but ancient, like something that had been here long before the logging companies, long before the Forest Service, long before anyone thought to put a name to this mountain. I walked for an hour, maybe more. My phone had no signal this deep in the forest, but that was normal. I checked my compass regularly, making sure I was still heading generally northeast, toward the ridge. The path curved and switchbacked, but it always returned to the right direction. I felt good, strong, like I'd made the right choice. That's when I first noticed the footprints. They were in a patch of soft mud where a small stream crossed the trail. Boot prints, clear and fresh, the tread pattern sharp and distinct. I stopped and stared at them, feeling a small twist in my stomach. I hadn't seen anyone else this morning. The parking area had been empty except for my truck. These prints were recent, maybe within the last few hours. The edges were still crisp, not yet softened by time or weather. I knelt down to look closer, and that's when the twist in my stomach became something colder. The tread pattern was familiar, not just similar, but identical. I lifted my own boot and placed it next to one of the prints. Perfect match. I stood up quickly, my heart starting to pound. Okay, I thought. Okay, this makes sense. I must have circled back somehow. The trail had been winding, lots of switchbacks. I crossed my own path without realizing it. That was all. But I'd been checking my compass. I hadn't turned around. I hadn't circled back. I stood there for a long moment, listening to the silence of the forest. No birds. No wind. Just my own breathing and the distant trickle of the stream. Then I made a decision. I'd keep going, but I'd pay closer attention. Mark my route. Make sure I wasn't doubling back. I pulled up my knife and carved a small X into a tree next to the stream. Then I continued forward. The trail rose steadily, winding between massive boulders covered in thick moss. I'd been walking for another 30 minutes when I saw it. Another stream crossing, another patch of mud, and there, clear as day, were my boot prints again. I stopped. My mouth went dry. This wasn't possible. I'd been moving uphill the entire time. I'd been watching my compass. I hadn't turned around, but there they were. The same prints, fresh, recent, and next to the stream, carved into a tree trunk, was an X, my X. I reached out and touched the cut. The sap was still tacky, barely beginning to oxidize. I'd carved this mark maybe 2 minutes ago, but that was impossible. I'd walked for 30 minutes. I'd covered distance. I'd climbed elevation. I looked around trying to find some explanation, some way this could make sense. The trees looked the same. The boulders looked the same. The quality of light, the shape of the path, everything felt identical. But it couldn't be the same place. It couldn't. I pulled out my compass. The needle spun lazily, then settled pointing northeast, the same direction I'd been traveling. I checked my altimeter. I'd gained maybe 200 feet since the last time I checked, so I was going up. I was moving forward. I was making progress. But somehow, I was also right back where I'd started. I forced myself to breathe slowly. Panic wouldn't help. There had to be an explanation. The trail must loop back on itself, some kind of natural spiral. The stream must run in a circle, crossing the path multiple times. The trees must look similar because they were the same species, same age, same conditions. I told myself these things, but I didn't believe them. Something was wrong. The forest knew it. I knew it. I looked at my watch. It was just past noon. I'd been walking for over 4 hours. I should be miles deep into the wilderness by now, approaching the ridge. Instead, I was here. Wherever here was, I made another decision. I'd leave the trail, just step off, bushwhack directly upslope, get above the tree line where I could see the terrain, figure out where I was. Simple. I turned to my left where the slope rose sharply and took a step off the path into the undergrowth. The moment my boot left the trail, I felt it. A wrongness, a pressure, like walking into a wall of invisible water. The air itself seemed to thicken, pushing back against me. I took another step, forcing myself forward, and the resistance grew stronger. My ears began to ring. My vision darkened at the edges. I felt dizzy, nauseous, like my body was rejecting the very idea of leaving the path. I stumbled backward, back onto the trail, and instantly the pressure released. The ringing stopped. The nausea faded. I stood there, gasping, my heart hammering in my chest. What the hell was that? I looked into the forest on either side of the trail. It looked normal: trees, ferns, moss-covered rocks, but I could still feel it. That invisible barrier, that wrongness. The trail didn't want me to leave. No, that was insane. Trails don't want anything. They're just paths, dirt and stone. They don't think. They don't feel. They don't have intentions. But this one did. I could feel it now, a kind of awareness that ran along the packed earth like a current. The trail was watching me, waiting to see what I'd do next. I started walking again, because what else could I do? I couldn't go off the path. I couldn't go back. I'd just end up at the same stream crossing again. So I went forward, one foot in front of the other, watching the trees, watching the path, watching my compass spin slowly in circles, the needle refusing to settle on any direction at all. The light began to change. It was too early for sunset, but the forest was growing darker. The canopy seemed to be thickening, the branches leaning inward, creating a tunnel of green shadow. I could see maybe 20 feet ahead before the path curved out of sight. And then I heard it. Footsteps, not behind me, not ahead, but somewhere to my right, parallel to the trail, moving at the same pace I was moving. I stopped. The footsteps stopped. I started again. They started again. Perfectly synchronized. Same rhythm, same weight, like someone was walking alongside me, just out of sight, matching me step for step. I stood very still and listened. The footsteps had stopped when I stopped, but I could hear something else now, breathing, slow and steady, in and out. The same rhythm as my own breathing. Hello. My voice came out hoarse, barely above a whisper. The words seemed to die in the air, absorbed by the trees. No response, just that breathing, in perfect time with mine. I started walking faster. The footsteps matched my pace. I broke into a jog. They jogged, I ran, my pack bouncing on my back, my breath coming in ragged gasps, and the footsteps ran with me, never falling behind, never getting closer, just there, always there, keeping perfect time. I ran till my legs burned, my lungs screamed, and I had to stop. Doubled over, hands on my knees. The footsteps stopped the instant I did. I turned in a slow circle, trying to see through the trees. But the forest was too dense, the shadows too deep. I couldn't see anything. Just branches and ferns and the darkening air. What do you want? I shouted into the trees. My voice cracked on the last word. The breathing continued, in and out, steady, calm. And then, so faint I almost missed it, I heard something else, a voice, my voice, echoing my own words back to me with a half-second delay. What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? I started walking again, trying to ignore the sounds, trying to focus on the path ahead. The trail continued to wind upward, but I wasn't gaining elevation anymore. My altimeter showed the same reading it had an hour ago. The path was taking me in circles, or spirals, or some shape that didn't have a name, keeping me at the same height while I walked and walked and walked. The sky above the canopy was turning orange since I was coming. I'd been walking for hours and I hadn't seen a single landmark I recognized. No clearings, no rock formations, no streams except that one crossing that I kept returning to over and over. I came around a bend and stopped dead. There, carved into a tree, was my ex. Again, the sap still tacky, still fresh. I looked down at the mud near the stream. My boot prints, fresh, recent. But this time something was different. There were more prints now, not just mine, other prints. Same boots, same tread, but coming from different directions. Converging on the spot, I counted them. 5 sets of tracks, all mine, all fresh, all arriving at this stream crossing from different sections of the trail. The trail was folding in on itself, looping, bringing me back to this exact spot no matter which direction I walked. I sat down hard on a fallen log, my mind trying to process what was happening. This wasn't possible. This defied every law of physics and geography and rational thought, but it was happening. The evidence was right there in the mud. The breathing in the trees was louder now. Multiple sources all around me, all perfectly in sync with my own panicked gasp. I looked into the shadows and saw nothing, but I could feel them. Presences, watching, waiting. The trail was learning me. I understood that now. Every time I walked it, every choice I made, every turn I took, it was memorizing my pattern. My gait, my rhythm, my fear, and it was making copies. I stood up, my legs shaking. I couldn't stay here. I had to keep moving. But where? Every direction led back to the same place. The trail had me. I chose a direction at random and started walking. The path ahead looked different, or maybe I was just desperate to believe it was different. The trees seemed to lean away slightly, creating more space. The light was different, coming from a different angle. I walked for what felt like an hour. The orange light faded to purple, then to deep blue. Stars began to appear in the gaps between branches. I pulled out my flashlight, clicked it on, and kept walking. The beam of my flashlight caught something ahead, a shape. I stopped, raised the light higher. It was a person, standing in the middle of the trail, perfectly still, wearing a backpack. My backpack. "Hey," I called out, my voice shaking. "Hey, I need help." The figure didn't move, didn't respond, just stood there, facing away from me. I took a step closer, then another. The beam of my flashlight traveled up the figure's back. Same jacket as mine, same pack, same boots. I came around to the side, my heart hammering so hard I could hear it in my ears. The figure turned its head to look at me. It was my face, my exact face, but the eyes were wrong. Empty, like looking into a mirror that had gone dark inside. I stumbled backward, and the figure mimicked the movement perfectly. I raised my hand. It raised its hand. I took a step to the left. It took a step to the left. "What are you?" I whispered. It opened its mouth, and my voice came out. "What are you?" I turned and ran. Behind me I heard it running too. Same pace, same footfalls, getting closer. I ran blindly, my flashlight beam bouncing wildly, illuminating trees and rocks and the endless winding trail. My lungs burned. My legs screamed. But I couldn't stop. It was behind me. I could hear it, feel it, matching my every movement. I broke through a gap in the trees and found myself in a small clearing. I spun around, my flashlight sweeping across the space. They were all there, 5 of them, maybe more, all standing in a circle around the clearing, all wearing my face, all watching me with those empty dark eyes. They began to walk toward me, slow, synchronized, their footsteps falling in perfect unison. I backed up until I hit a tree, trapped. They came closer, close enough that I could see the details. The same scar on my left hand from a climbing accident 2 years ago. The same small mole on my neck. The same everything. The closest one reached out and placed its hand on my chest. I felt the pressure, cold even through my jacket. It leaned in close, its face inches from mine, and opened its mouth. "Walk," it said in my voice. All of them spoke together. Walk. They turned as one and began walking back toward the trail, and I followed. Not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't not follow. My legs moved on their own, keeping pace with the others. We walked in a line, a procession of myself, back onto the trail. We walked through the night. Hours, maybe days. I lost track. The trail never ended. It just curved and wound and switchbacked, always bringing us back to the same stream, the same crossing, the same X carved into the same tree. Every time we passed it, I carved another X. By the time dawn came, the tree was covered in them. Hundreds of cuts, overlapping, bleeding sab. The copies walked with me, sometimes ahead, sometimes behind, sometimes beside me, matching my stride perfectly. We didn't speak, we just walked and walked. I don't know how long it went on. Time stopped meaning anything. There was only the trail and the walking and the copies of myself keeping pace. And then, one morning, I found myself standing in the parking lot. I blinked in the sudden brightness. My truck was there. Other cars too. People unloading gear, laughing, excited for their hikes. Normal people on a normal day. I looked down at myself. I was still wearing my pack, still holding my flashlight though the battery had died hours or days ago. My clothes were torn, covered in dirt and pine needles and dried blood from scratches I didn't remember getting. I got in my truck and drove home, told myself it was over, told myself I'd gotten out, survived, made it back. But that was 3 weeks ago, and I can still feel it. The trail. It's inside me now, in my bones, in my blood. Every night I dream of walking. Every morning I wake up with dirt under my fingernails and pine needles in my hair. Yesterday I found boot prints in my apartment, my boot prints, fresh, leading from the door to my bed and back again, over and over. The same path, the same loop. And last night I woke up to find myself standing at my window, looking out at the street. And there, on the sidewalk below, I saw them. 5 figures, maybe more, all wearing my face, all looking up at me, all waiting. I know what they want. They want me to walk with them, to join the procession, to become part of the trail forever. I can hear them now, outside my door, their footsteps in the hallway. Slow, synchronized, getting closer. The trail isn't done with me. It never will be. It learned me too well, copied me too many times, and now it's coming to take me back. I'm writing this down because I need someone to know. If you're reading this, if you ever find yourself on an unmarked trail that appears on no maps, that seems to offer a shortcut, a secret, a path less traveled, please, stay on the main trail. Some paths are meant to be forgotten. Some shortcuts lead nowhere you want to go. And some trails don't just remember you, they become you. The footsteps are at my door now. I can hear breathing on the other side. My own breathing, in perfect sync with mine. They're knocking, using my rhythm, my pattern. I'm going to open the door. Not because I want to, but because I know now that there's no escape. The trail found me. The trail will always find me. And when they take me back to the mountain, back to that endless winding path, there will be one more of me walking it. One more copy, one more version of Marcus Webb trapped in an infinite loop, and walking until the end of time. If you find my truck in the parking lot of Mount Hollow, untouched, with all my gear still inside, you'll know what happened. And if you're foolish enough to follow that unmarked trail, if you see boot prints that seem too fresh, if you hear footsteps keeping pace with yours, if you start to feel like you're walking the same section over and over, run, don't look back, don't try to understand, just run, and pray you make it out before the trail learns you to. Because once it knows you, once it has your pattern, your gait, your rhythm, it will never let you go. The door is opening now. They're reaching for me. Hands that look like my hands, faces that look like my face, all empty inside, all walking. I'm so tired, I just want to rest. But the trail doesn't rest, it never stops. It just... I'm so sorry to whoever finds this. I tried to warn you. The trail is calling me home, and I have no choice but to answer.